long enough wait.
I don't know. You said wait a minute. Uh, is it
I don't know.
working? Can y'all hear us?
We're gonna need to start the intro theme music thing again.
Yeah, I guess I could set that up. I just hadn't done it in a while. See, that's what I was working on. Look here. Watch this.
And now he can't hear me, so I can say everything I want to about him.
Do what?
Oh, nothing.
My ADHD kicked in when I went to get my headphones, and I was like, I really need a stand for those things because they were just laying up here. So that's why I threw that file together real quick and shot it over to the CNC.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, it looks cool.
It's the fun of having these magic robots. Think of an
Yeah, you just
idea, make an idea.
yeah, dream it up and put a robot to work.
Yep.
And I have run out of tea. Stand by. I
Oh
gotta refill
no.
my glass. I gotta refill my glass. Give me a second.
Well, hello everyone that's joining us early. Good to see you here. And I'm happy. Well, I'm fairly happy. It's a lot warmer up here. It's been easier to keep the shop warm enough to work on it. So I've gotten a few things done this week, which has been nice. So, but got an early question from Jody. I'll go ahead and answer that right away. Um, Asking, will the 8s or L2 fit in the acrylic enclosure that I was showing this afternoon? Unfortunately, no. That's one of the ones I was hoping that would fit, and I pulled it out to try, but it's a little too long. The interior dimensions of that acrylic enclosure are right around 24 inches by about 25 inches. And the 8s needs something like 28-ish, give front to back, I think, without the little control panel on it. So doesn't quite fit that one, unfortunately. Same thing with the longer B1, a little too big for it. And but some of the others, like the Algo Laser, the ASMR P3, X Tools, things like that, work pretty well in it.
All right, let's see who all's in here. I done seen Brian. Brian already started talking about my hair looking pretty. Good day, Chris. Sharon. Hello, Miss Sharon. Vince, how are you? Jim Pitts, Wichita. Okay. I guess that's he's saying he's in Wichita. Midnight Sunworks. Hello, Chris again. Midnight Sunworks. When you start a couple of seconds, seems like you're already talking. When you say, yeah, we saw that comment, so we kind of sit here for a few seconds. I hope that was long enough. Maybe we should start just playing some intro music. I'm gonna work on us an intro for Sunday Night Live. That's what I'm gonna do. Just some
Well,
intro music.
our channels and these live streams are known for music and dancing now. So
Hey, yeah, I guess so. Good day, Brian. How are you? Joe Brandon, South Carolina. Welcome, welcome. Just finished assembling the long mill MK20 by 30. Yeah, that's a rabbit hole using CNCs. I've gotten better at it, and I got news, guys. I have good news. Let me go through the comments first, I'll tell you about my news. Brian, thank you for sir. Yes, if you haven't, like, subscribe, follow. Please follow. I can't get any traction on Facebook. I don't know if nobody uses Facebook or Facebook has banned woodworkers. I don't know what it is, but I can't get any traction on Facebook. Y'all help me out with that. It's a struggle. Uh, Jeff Schultz, hello, sir. Dale Gettle, West Central Florida. Man, it must be warm, nice and warm down there. It's been raining here all day. James from Lower Alabama, probably sharing some of this lovely rainy weather with me. Flippin' Arkansas. I'm hoping that's not the name of the town. But welcome there, Arkansas. Mike Pierce, Chilton County. I got it. You got to know me personally, there, Mike. Got to if you're from Chilton County somehow or another. Hello, everybody. Langley, British Columbia, Canada. Hello, neighbors to the north. That's like some of your next door neighbors up there in Canada.
well, Canada's a big place.
Brian, seriously, guy, I mean, come on now. Y'all know I don't do makeup, right? This is hoodie
What?
head. No, this is hoodie head from going out to the house and back, and rained on head because every time I go to the house to eat or get something to drink, it's been raining all day. So it's been messy.
It's been
Not
sunny up
bored.
here.
Well, your
Just thought I'd
your
let you
sunny
know.
your sunny and my sunny is not the same because you're up there it's sunny at 40 and you're happy.
Hey, it was 45. I was out in, not a winter coat or gloves or hat, enjoying it.
Yeah. Mark L. Dart, Mike Pierce again. Yes, it is cold and raining. Roger. Hello, Roger Court. Not a familiar name, so if you're new, welcome, welcome. I hope you at least stay entertained, even if you don't learn anything. Uh, Robert Lowe, Brad Ham, Brian with his hair comments again. Super Duty in the house. Coal Creek in BCA. That's got to be somewhere in Canada. Is it? Or is that California? Don't know.
Uh,
Welcome, Terry,
BC is
regardless.
often, BC is usually British Columbia, but
Good evening, Northwest Florida. Man, there's some folks down there around the beach today. Hello from Phoenix. Is that Phoenix, Arizona or Phoenix City, Alabama?
I'm gonna go with probably
Dart.
Arizona.
Yeah, Dart says he got his enclosure for his Niji 4 Max going today. Got the box built. Now for the gas shocks and camera. Uh,
Nice. It's
yeah,
doing
those
better than
gas
me.
struts. Yeah, those gas struts. You gotta be careful with those things. If you go too hot with them, they'll knock your teeth out when you open the lid.
Or if
I
you go
use,
too weak, it's just gonna come down and bump you on the head.
yeah, I use springs and a cantilever design. Mine pulls it down when I lower it and pulls it up when I open it. So works out nice for me. Sent some bluegrass coming. Robert said he sent some blood. That's more my collection. Steve has his own taste in music. And when I watch Steve's videos, I'm like, what is that? What is this music?
It's called it's what's free on the YouTube creator music.
I was like, Steve got a little disco music. I almost want like a little disco ball, in the background. What's
Well,
up, Denton, North Carolina? Terry, I don't do a lot on Facebook, but from a business perspective, there are a lot of people that buy the stuff that I sell that are on Facebook. So that, as far as like, it's a business thing for me. I don't put a lot of personal stuff on Facebook, but for business and for buying tools at my own marketplace and stuff like that, it has its place, for sure. Not said his wife's got me on Facebook, but he ended his relationship in 2019. Like I said, I understand that, but from a business perspective, it is another out, and in certain areas, Facebook's still pretty popular, more so with women than it is men, I think. I need a
yeah, I mean
fridge. I've actually got a fridge in the shack.
I, I think with Facebook, it's it can definitely be polarizing. Some people definitely don't want to support it for various reasons, but yeah, I think a lot of people dial it in based on their groups that they need to interact with. I probably post more on laser groups than I do on my own personal page. So
Yeah.
I have to post something out there every so often just so people know I'm still alive.
Well, I'll go ahead and reveal the first addition to the shack to you guys. But I actually do have a refrigerator. It's sitting right there. It's just a little small one, but I do have one. And yes, I got me a little portable camera now. Got me a little setup where I can show you guys some cool stuff. So, in the event that somebody asks me a question about something that's over there, other than being able to hear me, which I hadn't worked that out yet, you'll be able to see it. So, that's cool. I'm from Maine, but I'm just going to say I'm a maker, and may or may not have sent me. Well, Bobby, if you're a maker, we make things here as well. And May doesn't like for me to advertise this, but you can do paper crafting with lasers. Now, every time I do it, she sends me a text message that says something about stay in your lane. I don't know what that's about, but You can do paper crafting with lasers, and you can really rack up some confetti with lasers doing speed tests.
Hmm.
Let's see here. Hartsville, South Carolina. Man, there's a lot of comments here. The only reason I'm on Facebook is community on Marketplace. Yeah, I agree, Mark. It's not a whole lot of other stuff there most days, but and I do have some family that that's about the only way I know what's going on with them. Oh, okay. Jody said his or her. I guess that could go either way. Uh, Small business is called Flippin' Crafty. So there we go. Yeah. So I guess that would be a like an adverb.
Well, I think they had a comment earlier that said the town was called Flippin'.
Oh, okay. Well, hey.
Yeah, they have a Flippin' Police Department, and a Flippin' Mayor, Flippin' Church of Christ, and so on. Someone was thinking ahead when they named that town.
Oh, it's got to be a tourist attraction. Oh me, that was funny. Brad said he's built him an enclosure Zilla on the smaller and the smaller enclosure this weekend. Boy, if you built two enclosures, you've been busy, Brad. Uh, so now it's time for all the details. Well, if you decide to go with flame orange or hunter orange or traffic cone orange, let me know because that's my thing. Uh, Take laser to craft shows in South Carolina. X2 D1 just drive. This is if you're trying to replace a D1, I mean, there's a couple of good machines, and if you're doing craft shows and stuff, there's several decent ones that I would think would be good for that. The newer iteration of lasers where they have all the safeties and enclosures and stuff like that would probably be a good look into the Lasermatic. Or now, I mean, I'm a little impressed with that guy, the Atom Stack, the little A24. It's a little more, it's a little smaller. So if you're doing big stuff, that might be a negative. And it doesn't jig as well as this guy because this one has the pins in the honeycomb. But other than that, both of them will be pretty good. Hey, don't be hating, Brian. Oh.
Yeah, if you're going to take it to shows, definitely looking at the newer fully enclosed. You know, even that. I mean, I have yet to see any of them that are fully enclosed. I mean, they have to draw in air somehow, and there's usually some angle where you can still get some light leaking from them. But I agree with you. With the Atom Stack A24 with the included the mount on there. It's nice because you can do most of what you want to do, but doesn't take up as much space. The camera in it works really well, and even the exhaust fan on it is pretty well. So that's definitely a good option. I just think if you're taking it to shows, portability, and the space it takes up. Some of these larger ones, I definitely wouldn't want to be. X Tool's got their new S1, but that'd be a bit of a beast to take along somewhere, and
It'd be a handful. Well,
some of these custom enclosures as well. So finding one that's somewhat lightweight and moderately portable is going to be the thing.
Well, I'm just going to be honest with you. My portable shack that I built, I built a little box. I built my own little enclosure because back then there weren't enclosed machines unless you got up in like Glow Forge and stuff like that. But I've already decided that the A24, because the biggest thing that I do at shows are cutting boards, like little bamboo cutting boards and stuff. So I've almost talked myself into the fact that I'm going to rip off the enclosure that I DIY'd, recycle the camera that's in there and the acrylic, and fix myself a way to mount the A24 on it. I would put the Rolly in there, but I'm going to be honest with you, the Rolly's a little bigger, and I kind of like having it in the shop for when I have like batches to do. Like I've got some business cards I got to do coming up for the event over in Georgia, and I'm going to set the jig system up in the Rolly and do those. I've got some other projects, so I kind of like keeping it in the shop. And with the A24 being smaller and it is a little lighter, I think it would be a good fit for my portable shack. And I wouldn't be
Yep.
missing out on anything here in the shop uh, by having it in the trailer all the time. Hobo, how are you, sir? But as far as enclosed machines that have came through here recently, I would say the Atom Stack's a good second to the Lasermatic. As far as if you're wanting an all enclosed machine, and like you said, it's actually a little on the lighter side and a little smaller. So if you're having to transport it, hello, Glenn from California or Colorado. I'm trying to scroll through these comments. I can't get caught up, y'all. Let me get caught up. Oh, hang on. Somebody got a question here. Well, the EGX. Yes, I've been told. Dickie Doyle. I have been told that you can actually run it the same as a CNC. I haven't tried it, and the reason that you can is because if you look, Niji actually makes a pin for this thing, and they also, I think they make a blade, like a cutter blade for it, so you can cut like paper or cardstock or whatever with it. And so there is a way. I haven't tried it because I'm a light burn fanatic, and I do mostly laser stuff. But from my research, I can tell you that there is supposed to be a way to where you could do it to where it would kind of flow, kind of like a CNC as far as going up and down. But I'm pretty sure you'd have to use a different software, um, maybe even just use a G code sender like you would for a CNC. I haven't played with that. That wasn't really on my list of things I wanted to do with it. ET in the house. All right, I think I'm caught up now, so we can concentrate on questions.
All right. Well, Kent is asking, what's the best affordable smoke eater that you would recommend? Smoke is getting to be a real problem in the winter. I only have experience with two of them, and that would be the Monport and the X Tool. In looking at the one from We Create and a few others, a lot of them are very similar in size and can actually take the same filter modules. It's a 3-stack of filters. The problem is they only work so well, and those filters get clogged up pretty quickly. The top layer filter, as a matter of fact, I think I have one here. Thought I had one here. The top layer filter is really just a foam particulate filter, and that's the one that gets clogged up quickly. You can wash them out and dry them out, and that'll help revive them a bit. But they they don't recommend that, mainly because they want to sell them to you. So, I don't know. I hate to recommend them because everybody's tolerance level for what is enough reduction is different. It is not 100%. If you're running it inside, you will still smell smoke. And technically, if you can smell smoke, it's bad for you. You're still, breathing in some of those carcinogens and such. So without really spending a lot of money, it's only going to take it down so much. And you're probably going to be a little disappointed if you're expecting just purified air. So
yeah, and from my experience with the Calm Grow, I'd say the same thing. It helps, but it takes the edge off, but it's not gonna.
That Calm Grow is just ridiculous. I mean, it's all of about 6 inches cubed, and the filter medium in there is that was meant to be a soldering iron fume extractor, not so much a smoke eater. But
yeah, like I said, my thing is just to vent it outside. And I know some climates that's a terrible, terrible thing to have to do. But I've tinkered with the idea, and I'm curious as to why somebody hadn't came out with like a filtering method using, say, like water, kind of like you would in certain chemicals where you have to filter it through water to kill the carcinogens or whatever. But then you wind up with this nasty water that's
Yeah.
filled with all kind of
Well,
debris. But
I think to get the air volume through that would be really, really difficult. 'Cause you got to move a fair amount of air, otherwise it's going to get backed up in the machine.
if you used a vacuum on the other side, it wouldn't.
Make one.
I've been considering it. I have. But yeah, basically Super Duty, it would basically be like a bong, but it would actually, because you're pulling the air through the water, any kind of little particulates or whatever, you would think that it would have an effect on it. And then if you ran it through, let's say some charcoal or whatever, as it was coming out, it would probably have to be pretty big though, and it would be heavy if it was filled with liquid. But I've been thinking about that. I was like, I can't believe, because like there's certain, from my hazmat days, there's certain chemicals and there's certain things that, you know, I've seen people, you know, running all kinds of stuff, really, really, really toxic stuff, and doing it, you know, with a bubbler like that, running it through water, and they survived. So it's kind of weird. But I was just wondering if that might be something that maybe one day they would come out with, to where you could just basically fill up the reservoir with some kind of liquid, and then just pull it through there. It would get most of the particulates out in the liquid, and then pull it through charcoal and get the rest of it out. It just seems like it would be a little more effective than these HEPA filters, because they stop up so fast because of the way that they're made. But anyway, that was just a thought. Maybe one day when I'm really, really bored.
When's that going to be?
Probably after I retire, to be honest with you. It'll be a while.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, there's some companies out there, and I got a friend of mine who does a lot of that. This particular image, I got lucky because I helped design the badge, and so we got the image file from the company, and I threw it in a Lightburn, did some trace work on it, and kind of grouped everything together and cleaned it up really nice. But it was a really good image when I started with it. But there are some companies out there. I talked with a fellow the other night. He was having some problems with his new Monport CO2. I went over and helped him get it working, and he told me that he does a lot of badges, and he's found a company that you can basically take a photograph of the badge, send it to them, and for a small fee, they'll turn it into a vector file for you, which is really cool. But I'll have to get with him and find out what that company is that he's been using, because he says he uses them a lot, and they've done some really good work. I saw some of the projects he's working on, and it was pretty nice the way they had it laid out, because they even had it in like layers, like different cut layers in this project area. So that was pretty neat. Super Duty said he knows how they work. It should be okay. I'm not even asking, Super Duty. Not even asking.
So, Joy Clayton's asking, just got the X-Tool S120 watt. All the YouTube videos show only the 40 watt. Is there any difference in the machines working except for the speed? Also, will it cut acrylic? No, the power difference is the major difference there, as far as its ability to maybe cut through a little more thick material, but generally it's going to do things a little bit faster. It does not change what it can cut. As far as acrylic, due to the nature of diode lasers, they will only cut through opaque and generally darker colors. As you get into lighter, more reflective colors and or blue, the light can't interact with that acrylic, and so it does not cut through that very well, if at all. And definitely nothing that is translucent. Well, some translucents, if they're dark enough, you'll get some effect on, but if it's clear, it just passes right through that. So the higher wattage isn't going to make a difference on that.
Yeah, as far as the workspace, I don't know. Is the module the same size? You might actually get a little bit more workspace if the module is smaller. But I
I
think
don't
the
know
way that
because
thing locks in, I don't think it would matter because the way it locks in, it's like it has the same size case.
yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think
Yeah.
it's they're roughly the same size. So
Yeah. Chris is saying that he's thinking about pulling the trigger on the X-Tool P2. Any others he should be looking at? Chris, I would just say it depends on what you're wanting to do with it. That's the biggest. That is the most overlooked thing people look at when they're trying to buy a machine is make sure it's going to excel at what you plan on doing it with it the most. What's your thoughts,
yeah,
Steve?
well, the X Tool P2 is a nice machine if you're looking for something that's kind of all contained, a real desktop benchtop machine that's all contained. I mean, it has the chiller and the air pump inside of it. You're not hanging a lot of extra accessories off there. It doesn't require, or it doesn't come with its own cabinet. You got to set it on something. You can definitely get the same uh, power and maybe a little larger work area if you're willing to step up to more of a cabinet based machine. But then that's probably going to have an external chiller, definitely an external fan, probably external air pump, things like that. And they take up a lot more space. A lot of times they come, it's shipped to you on a freight truck as opposed to
Yeah,
a dolly and a UPS guy, dragging it up any stairs, which is a little scary in its own right. But
yeah,
it's definitely a nice machine. If you've watched Clack's latest video from this morning, that camera in there, if you use the close up view, it is very accurate, and so it performs very nicely in that realm. As far as I have a piece of material, I want to put it here. Um, as far as setting up jigs and for alignment, you can do that as well. Whether you need to or not, then with that camera is going to be the determination. So um, it's not the cheapest 55-watt CO2 out there, but it is fairly nice for what it is. And I think both of us have warmed to Xtool Creative Space over the past few months. When it first came out with the D1 and it was what was it, Laserbox something.
Laserbox Basic.
We were definitely on the I'm going over to Lightburn bandwagon, but with the features of the both the dual cameras as well as the 3D marking and such, um, you really need to use Creative Space for that, and it's pretty decent. There are only a few things in there that I occasionally get tripped up on as far as things I know that I could do in Lightburn, but and if you want to get into it, I mean, they do have the conveyor and such. So if you're looking for larger pass through, automatic pass through stuff, they've got those options and such. Whereas some of the others may or may not have a decent pass through, but it's going to be more manual, where you're going to have to do kind of the cut and print options and such. So it's definitely something to consider. But it's you're paying for some of these kind of all in one kind of stuff where you can get a cheaper laser that is just as powerful if you're going for budget. So I'm
Yeah,
very happy
well,
with mine. I have a larger my 7-year-old 60-watt CO2, and it's very much mostly a shelf because I stick things on top of it, and I'm not using it very often. So mine has definitely kind of replaced that. Um, but there are some things where it's got that 23 by 12 working area. That's a little bit limiting when you're used to a little bit bigger on some of these others.
yeah. I like the P2, and so far everything I've done with it has done a really good job, with the exception of tumblers. I tried doing tumblers with it today, and I found I tell you all the time, every machine has its strengths and its weaknesses. The P2's weakness, in my opinion, is tumblers, because the setup process, you have to get it under the red dot to figure out how tall it is, and then you got to line up this line with the. It's a pain. So I decided today, about 5 minutes into trying to make a video doing tumblers on the P2, that I will not be doing tumblers on the P2 because I'll be broken. So I've got too many other machines that do a really good job. Like the S1. The S1 is a tumbler making machine if you set it up right. The Lasermatic, the MK2. Smaller tumblers knocks them out like a rock star. Now the bigger ones, yeah, you got a little problem because you gotta like get the chuck down below the machine and do some set. So I don't do big tumblers with it. The regular size ones or small ones, yes. Big tumblers, I'm either going to do with the S1 or I'm going to put them over here in Enclosure Zilla. One of the two. I actually prefer the S1 since I've got my jig set up in there and everything. Because I just literally take the chrome tray out, drop in the RA2 and everything. I've got a file already set up for tumblers because in that jig it knows exactly where it's going to be because I'm using my little RA2 holder and I can crank out tumblers quick with that 40 watt. So the S1's kind of my tumbler go-to right now if I'm not using the fiber. The fiber does a great job too, but sometimes I find that blue diodes might be a little better for tumblers than the fiber because you don't have to worry about actually cutting into the metal. Because with the fiber, if you go too deep, you can actually literally engrave the tumbler. So it just depends on the look that I'm going for as to which machine I use. But the P2 is not on my tumbler list. It's cutting, engraving, like that thing that I did yesterday, that I did the video on this morning. Awesome. Love it. But cutting does a great job. But tumblers, no thanks. Not on that machine. Do yourself a favor and keep your D1 for tumblers. Because I would rather use a D1 than the P2 for tumblers. I'll just put it to you that way. It's just less complicated. And sometimes simple is best.
Yeah, I've actually done the most tumblers on my original eBay 60 watt CO2.
Well, that's how I paid for my 10 watt, my D1 10 watt, the first laser I bought. That's how I paid for it. And I paid for it in like 3 months doing tumblers. I literally kept my X tool D1 up on blocks for 2 or 3 months, just knocking out tumblers. I was having people order like 50, 60 at a time. And that's how I paid for the first machine and financed my second machine. So there is a place for them. But yeah, the P2, they kind of messed me up with that on tumblers. But it's really good at other stuff, so it makes it still useful to keep around. Apparently, there's some people saying that there are some little water filtering stuff out there. I have to look into that. I might have to make me a laser filter. Not that I need it. I just blow the stuff out the wall.
So Steve Weaver's building an enclosure for an extended V35 with LED strip lights inside. Question is, what would be best color to paint the inside? I don't want it to be too bright or reflective. I've seen some bright white, flat black, and one painted orange. Well, I would personally stay away from orange by all means.
Hey. But that
No,
looks tight.
I guess it kind of depends on the amount of LEDs and what you're going for. On my original enclosure, I did paint it white, basically because I had the cabinet paint laying around, and I figured I'd use it up. Most importantly, I would make sure you get a durable paint that you can clean, because you will get some over time. If you use it a lot, it'll build up some stuff in some areas. That smoke and vapor is going to land on it. It's nice to be able to clean it off some. But that'll also add to the reflectivity to it a bit. I probably would avoid flat black just because that's going to just suck up any light, and then you're going to have to put more LEDs in there. But outside of that, I would just pick a color you like and just make sure that it's got some durability so that you can clean it. And then adjust the amount if you're doing LED strips, you can just adjust the amount of strips you put in there so that it's not too bright.
Yeah, I agree with that. And if you really want to be cautious, get you a set of the LED lights that has the dimmer built into them. Because there are times when you're trying to calibrate a camera or you're trying to take a picture of something to trace it inside your enclosure, that you're going to want to play with those light settings to get it to contrast just right. Some of my older enclosures, I didn't have the adjustable lights, and I learned after trying to use Lightburn to do traces or trying to see things to line stuff up, that sometimes a whole lot of light is just not your friend. Sometimes you want to turn it down just a little bit. So that I would recommend that. Make sure whatever you get that you have the ability to turn it up and down. Uh, Personal preference, but Chuck saying, have you ever tried? I'm guessing mirror in the X-Tool P2. If so, what should be some good start settings? Chuck, I have not. That's one of the things that I probably will eventually, but I will say from it being a CO2, uh, you're going to be more likely to get the frosted look if you don't get just the right amount of settings. So I would have to do a speed test to even give you any idea on the P2. I haven't attempted that yet. I've been staying a little busy, and to be honest with you, I've beat you guys up with mirror videos. So I'm gonna stay away from them for a couple of months because everybody kept asking for them. It was like, hey, I can't do a 12 inch. How about a 10 inch? And I did a 10 inch. And they're like, well, I can't do a 10 inch. How about a 8 inch? And then, hey, I got a F1. How about a 4 inch? So I have run the gamut on mirrors here lately. So I'm gonna stay away from them for a little while anyway.
Yeah, on one hand, you want to give them what they want, but after a while, it's kind of a rinse and repeat. How can you make it any different?
Yeah, I mean, if I come out with a new improved technique or something, or maybe if I want to sit down and just do like a really step by step, like watching the painting and everything, maybe a more in depth video. We'll see, but I'm gonna kind of give that a break a little bit. I don't want to ride that horse too much. Chris Libby says, I have a CNC Shapeco Pro 5 all ready for cutting. And since Chris brought it up, guys, as soon as Shapeco gets around to it, or Carbide, I guess it should say, gets around to it, I have sent them the money to fill up my table. So I have been feeding that CNC, and hopefully within the next 2 or 3 weeks, it will mature into a 4-foot by 4-foot Shapeco Pro 5, complete with the 1200 watt spindle kit VFD. So I'm waiting on that notification saying it's on its way. But I ordered it Friday. I was gonna hold off and wait a little while, but I couldn't. So I went ahead and ordered it. So it's on its way. And I've been, like I said, I have been making all kinds of cool stuff with the one that I have. So I'm looking forward to getting it because I actually set up a project today and I ran into a limit switch and messed up a piece of plywood. And I'm like, that is why you should have a 4-foot work area, because it wasn't that big of a project, but I didn't set it in the center. And so I wound up getting into one of my limits, but that was my bad. I should have measured the work area before I sent it. But anyway, I'll cure that once I get my big machine.
Well,
Yeah. So
you're
that's gonna be fun.
you're the opposite of me then. I'll start talking about something and I'll be talking to my wife about it, and eventually she gets to the point where it's like, would you just buy it so you stop talking about it?
No, see, my wife was the opposite on this one. 'Cause I told her the other day, I said, I think I was trying to be mature. I was trying to be mature. So I told her, I was like, I think I'm gonna hold off on buying the CNC and just hang on to my money for a little while, and just wait and enjoy what I have and be thankful for what I have. And she's like, oh, I can't believe you hadn't already ordered it. And I was like, I can't either. And then Friday I gave in because it's been sitting in my cart on the Shapeco website for months now. But yeah, I'm waiting on that thing to come in, and I'm looking forward to coming up with some creations. And of course, she starts sending. I banned her from Pinterest today because she keeps sending me pictures. Hey, here's a CNC project. I'm like, that's shutters for the outside of the house. It's not a CNC project. Oh, well, you could make them anyway. What? So I got to figure out how I'm going to incorporate a CNC into making shutters, but I'm sure I can come up with something.
Well,
Kit, I have not necessarily, but that would actually be a rather easy file for either a CNC or a laser, to be honest with you. Because guys, you know what 3/4 inch plywood is, right? You know what this is, don't you? That's 3 sheets of 1/4 inch plywood glued together. So, you can actually make some pretty robust stuff with 1/4 inch plywood and a laser, as long as you're willing to glue it together and take the time. But no, I hadn't made any of those. Mine usually stay in bags. I got like a big bag that's got a strap that, yeah, that's where mine usually live.
I've seen a few files for quick loading them.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of those, which
Yeah,
that's a quick loader.
yeah,
That's all. That's also why I got like a really hard callus right there.
yeah.
But
So
there you go. Just want to know if you use your coffee table anymore.
yeah, no. Uh, very, very randomly. As a matter of fact, I've been uh, hinting at a friend or two. I'm like, hey, maybe you need a project because I could kind of use the space at this point. Looking to build another bench table for holding some of these other ones. So
Yeah. Well, John, welcome to the struggle because the struggle is real, bro. First of all, you're going to have to deal with frustration, addiction, because you're going to get addicted to it and you're going to want to buy more lasers and you're going to want to buy more software. So I hope you know what you're getting into. It's a rabbit hole. Ask anybody that's in here that's been doing it for a minute. But it's fun. It is one of the most enjoyable hobbies I've ever had. And it's actually one of the most cost effective hobbies I've ever had. All my other hobbies just cost me money. I can actually make a little bit of money doing this. So my wife's much happier with this choice.
yes.
Rich has a question. He has a D1 10-watt Pro looking to get a 20-watt. Which would you recommend? Lasermatic or I'm guessing he thinks says we create. Do you want to answer this one first? Or you want me to?
Uh, I don't have a Lasermatic. I have a We Create. I would get the Lasermatic.
Yeah, I agree. If you're looking for very, very simple with no real hopes of ever designing your own files and you're just going to download and print stuff, the We Create mechanically is a good machine. Software wise, I'm not happy with it. Well, yours has had some mechanical problems.
I,
Mine hasn't.
I had to unbuild and rebuild mine before I got it working. After that, yes, it's run okay, but the software is just incredibly limiting on it right now. And if you're coming from another laser, whether you're using with the D1, if you're using Xtool Creative Space, or if you've been using Lightburn, you'll be very frustrated with the We Create software at this point. Now, they have been developing it. They do continue to update it, but in this day and age, and at the price they're asking for it, the Lasermatic is right in the same ballpark price wise. I would go with that over the We Create right now. Now, maybe they update it in the future and it gets better, but today I would go the Lasermatic route. And I've never touched one, never seen one in person.
I would agree that given the choice of two machines, if you told me one of these machines has got to leave here, goodbye. That was gone. No doubt. Actually, I've actually gotten rid of it one time and it came back because the guy gave it to who didn't want it. But if I thought about trying to hack it and make it work on Lightburn myself, but that's just not cost effective. Mark, in my enclosure underneath on top of the lift table, I've got some aluminum angle iron that I bought that runs the length of the honeycomb. On top of that, I have the big thin piece of stainless or whatever that came with the honeycomb, and I have it screwed to the angle iron to support it and keep it straight. And then if you can go to like you can get them on Amazon or you can go to Harbor Freight or somewhere. They make these like big magnets that you use for welding for holding stuff together. I bought a pack of those. They're probably a half inch thick, and they've got metal around them. And I've got those placed sporadically in this enclosure that holds the honeycomb down. And in this one, I actually got some pretty good sized magnets and just epoxied them to that piece of stainless steel. And of course, after running it for a little while, I think the sap and the crud would have glued them on there, but they've got epoxy on them, hold them in place. I just put me a little ball of epoxy in there, smashed them into it, and got it good and good and solid. So using magnets is how I like to do it with especially if you're just putting it on a flat surface, works pretty well. But you got to put enough of them on there so it holds it really sturdy. You want to actually have to put some force to it to pull it loose. You don't want it sliding around. Jessica says my machine will time out in the middle of a project. It's frustrating. Any thoughts? What machine and what software? That would be my question.
And I think she had followed that up with she's already turned off the sleep mode, but that you can still dive into your power settings and make sure that the USB ports aren't going to sleep, because that could be separate from like your display going to sleep and your hard disk going to sleep. So that tends to be one of the issues with it. But
hang on just a second. There was not a sale. It was a message on Etsy.
well, while you're doing that, Larry's asking, have you used tempera paint for glass or tumblers? And yes, I have. The key to it is getting a nice, even, consistent coat on there. And that's got full coverage. You don't want it to be too streaky or too, you don't want like weak areas in there. The other thing with doing glass on any laser is you can overpower it really quickly. And that's where instead of getting a frosting, you're going to get more fracturing and chipping of the glass. But it does work. My recommendation is if you can get you can do it with like foam brushes and paint it on. But if you get yourself an inexpensive airbrush and water it down a little bit, spray it on in light coats, and then either use like a hair dryer or a heat gun or a space heater or something just to get some warm air on that will help dry it right away. And then do like 2 or 3 light coats to get it evened out. That tends to work pretty well. So, and tempera paint's cheap. You can get it at most craft stores, Walmart, whatnot, and it washes off with water. So it's really easy to work with. It's just getting it on nice and even coat is the trick there. So, and Terry brings up a good point with the timeout. Sometimes you can get a USB cable that's just flaky, and so sometimes just swapping that out can solve some connectivity problems especially with the lasers, but any devices.
I have no idea. I've only seen the U.S. brand ones. Michael's asking if the U.S. and the EU variants of the HRLs are the same, minus the wiring. I've never seen anybody say that there was any difference in the parts of the actual machine. Of course, we all know the plug's going to be different on the power pack, but I wouldn't
Yeah,
see
but if it's
why
just
it would
the
be any
upgrade
different.
rails,
I wouldn't see why it would be any
Yeah.
different because the machine would have to be different.
that would seem odd that they have. I don't know. Yeah, maybe there's just sometimes the US versus EU, there can be different import requirements to like the type of packaging they use to like with the X Tool S1 riser base, since it technically takes the laser from a class 4 to a class 1, or the other way around actually, they can't sell it in the EU that way because of safety requirements for that. So it's sometimes it's just weird. I mean, I know, what was it? It was one of the things, I don't know if it was Etsy or another one, where if you're shipping to, was it maybe France? They have some sort of thing where the originating company has to have a plan for reclaiming the packing materials. So it either needs to be all recyclable, or you have to have a plan for the consumer being able to deal with the packing materials. So like if you're packing it all in foam or whatnot, there's some way to dispose of that and have it covered. So it can be sometimes as stupid as they ship it in different packing materials, different companies. So hard to say what the difference is on those.
Yeah. John's asking, do I need to do a material test before I try to etch some flat glass. I can't find a video on glass material or list or good settings to start testing with. Uh, John, from my experience, yes, anytime you're wanting to do a material, especially with glass, because if you're trying to engrave glass, the thing that you're going to find is too much engraving on glass is going to result in you just walking around with this piece of whatever it is, and it's going to randomly explode because it's going to have micro fractures that you can't see, but it's just going to like fall apart. I've did wine glasses before, set them over here on the table, and come back the next day, and it's just fell apart because like during the night it would get colder or it would get hotter or whatever, and the glass would expand and that crack would just fly through it and just fall it apart. So with glass, yes, you're going to want to test and do lots of testing. The cheaper glass, from my experience, from Dollar Tree or Dollar General or whatever, does better. I don't know why. The more expensive the glass, it seems the easier to crack. I don't know if that's because of the hardness scale of it, or maybe it's got more or less of something in it. But the cheap glass from the Dollar Tree seems to do the best. And with glass is one of those situations where you're probably going to want to end up raising your focus up a millimeter or so, because if you leave it completely focused perfectly, the chipping's going to be worse than if you raise it up a little bit, because you kind of want to add the heat without just destroying the glass. What is your take on it, Steve? You've done glass as well.
Yeah, no. It's definitely a you want to be on the lower end of the power rating, um, or much faster on the speed, because like you mentioned, too much power on there, and it'll start fracturing and splintering or even shattering under the right conditions. So definitely speed test, and yeah, I'd agree with that. The cheaper glasses tend to work better.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as a matter of fact, there's a what is it? It's this little chocolate caramel dessert thing that my wife and kids like to get at Aldi's, and so they come in this little. It's like a shot glass size thing, and it's real glasses. So, I sometimes will grab one or two of those before they hit the recycle bin, uh, as some tests as well. So
Yeah.
sometimes you can get a good treat for the wife, yourself, and some test material for the laser.
Well, one of my local businesses in town, the one I did what was it I did for them the other day? Oh, the wood grain tumblers. Abraso, they sent me this. Apparently, they bought themselves a couple of cases of these. It's like a little miniature wine shot glass looking thing. And so this is my tester to see what kind of engraving I can do and make sure that it's not going to be fractured real bad on me or whatever. So this will probably be in a video pretty soon. Uh, but I was planning on doing it with the P2, but after the little fiasco today, I'm torn. I may wind up Cerakoting it and or Cermarking it and doing it in the S1, because I was not real happy with the rotary performance in the P2 today. I'm gonna try to stick with flat stuff in there. It does great at that.
Nice.
But yeah, Leslie's saying that she did 100 tumblers in 4 days with her X Tool S1, and I'm telling you that thing, especially like the way I've got mine to where the RA2 is fixed to the board that I got up underneath my S1. I could crank them out on that thing because it's so simple. Uh, but but yeah, you can make money doing tumblers, especially if you get one of those big orders like that. I love those big orders where it's the same exact design. And the S1 really makes it nice, because with the S1, if you run a job and you open it and you take the tumbler out and you put another one in there, if you're burning the exact same design, all you've got to do is put your laser back where you want it, close the lid, and hit the button, and it'll deploy that same job over and over and over. So that's one feature with the S1 that I do like as well, because it's kind of like a
Hmm.
fiber where you have the pedal and you just keep pushing the pedal.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I was even reading X Tool is talking about adding some sort of fob or something to maybe at least the F1 as well, because for repeat type things like that. But
Yeah.
definitely nice.
Well, hello. Larry says he's hello from Chattanooga, and he's spending his 68th birthday with us. He says he's enjoyed it. And Larry, now we will have Steve sing happy birthday to you, sir. Steve. Steve.
Sorry, I think my headphones cut out.
Okay. Apparently, Steve is not going to sing happy birthday, Larry, but happy birthday to you. You don't want me singing. Y'all done seen me dance. You don't want me singing.
Is
It's
that
not a
song
good.
did Happy Birthday ever come off the is it in public domain yet now? Because for a while you couldn't sing that without paying royalties.
Well, anyway, but happy birthday. We'll give you. I'll give you Steve's call. It's the Viking call for you there.
Well, I'm glad that didn't work and we didn't hear it. But Rough Rider Laser mentioned pulled the trigger on the X Tool F1 for craft shows. I know you have one. Are you happy with the material setting? So the material settings within Creative Space have been pretty good starting points for me. But some, when you get into some of the metals, you might want to do a little playing if you can run a test grid, especially if you're going for a certain tone or a color. Different thicknesses and types of stainless steel will have a slightly different effect. But yeah, they do a pretty decent job of getting you in the ballpark. But that being said, I'm always an advocate of run some material tests in a test grid to really dial it in. But so far they've got me close enough where I don't have to run like 50 of them to get in the ballpark. So, but yeah, enjoy that, and hopefully it does well for you at craft shows, because it's one of the ones that's really nice to be able to, where it's portability and the fact you can mark on both typical organic materials with the diode, the blue diode, and as well as the IR.
So Steve, you're not hearing my horn.
No.
I think it's just you.
Well, I told you I'm having issues with my headphones. I have no idea what you said a couple minutes ago.
I think it's just you. Can you hear this one?
Nope.
Well, maybe I have an audio problem.
So Kent is asking, he's got the X-Tool D1 Pro, the COM Marker Fiber, and the ComGrow 20 watt that normally used on the D1 Pro. What CO2 do you guys recommend? I have a need to cut and etch clear acrylic. Really going to depend on your budget and the size of material you want to work with. I would stay away from unless you really like to play and tinker and you're just working with small sizes, I'd stay away from kind of that K40 CO2. It's inexpensive compared, but it's also very limiting, and you'll find yourself wanting to do a lot of upgrades to it. So you're going to end up putting a fair amount of money into that. I would, if you're looking at this investment to be able to do some work and you're going to be able to turn a profit on it, definitely start looking into, maybe something from Thunder Laser. If you want the all-in-one, like we mentioned earlier, the X-Tool P2 is definitely one that we're both familiar with and have been happy with, but it's a little higher on the price tag. The Glowforge is something that, you've got that cloud-based software, and if that's offline, you're kind of out of luck. So I would maybe steer away from that. But I would at least look at the 55 watt, 50 to 60 watt benchtop lasers that you can get from like OhmTech, from Monport, and others. They're going to have some support, but not as much as some of these other places. So it's, we say this a lot, it depends. That's, your size requirements, your budget, and, the space you have to put it are all going to be factors into that. You have any thoughts on that?
I'm trying to get my horn to work.
Yeah, I noticed.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, if you do an acrylic, then CO2 is going to be the way to go as far as cutting acrylic. And you have options on that, like what you said. You can go with the big, like earlier. I mean, you can get a cheap or cheaper machine if you get one of the big, sure enough, deep freeze looking machines, or you can get a desktop machine, which is going to be kind of in the area in the realm of, the X Tool P2, Thunder 30 watt, and let's see, what's the other one? Glowforge, stuff like that. But I'm digging the P2, but I know it's a little tough pill to swallow as far as the price of it. So that's something that's like I said, that's something that you just got to consider when you're looking at getting one. So I would definitely look into that because price does go up, and I can't believe my sounds have quit on me. That is terrible, Steve. Terrible.
So Yuri mentioned, did you guys see the X Tool teased an all white P2? And yeah, they've teased that they're going to do a limited run of the P2 and the S1. I want to say it was maybe 200 units of each, and it's going to be a first come first serve kind of thing. So, um, I mean, I guess they're probably going to see how much interest there is. You know, to me, color doesn't matter outside of, I would think the white would probably show dirt a little bit more than the gray. That could be good or bad. I mean, you see it, you might clean it. Otherwise, it's also going to get a little bit dingy, maybe. But then again, I painted my enclosure white, so if white is pushing you over the edge to want to buy one, well, you're going to have a limited opportunity to try to snag one of a few units that they're going to run. So give it a shot. And Mark is mentioning, wondering if either of us have cut Revolution ply. It's about 4mm plywood, and I think the veneer is bamboo. Been cutting it, but takes a fair number of passes at 20 watts. And I know I've tried it. I think you've tried it, and definitely not my favorite.
It's a little tough.
It's a little tough. And the frustrating part is you'll kind of find a sweet spot where it cuts, and then all of a sudden you'll hit these areas that I think it's just a massive bit of glue, among other things, and it's I wasted a lot of material and time trying to cut out some larger things at one point using it, and so I kind of gave up on it. So not my favorite, not something I would necessarily recommend and go out. But if you've got some and it's free or cheap, maybe use it for some less critical items that you're okay wasting some material on.
I can't get this to work, man. I'm so irritated with my setup right now.
Mike's commenting he likes the P2, but isn't it dependent on creative space? Some support on Lightburn, but still limited, right? And that's correct. Some of their advanced features
Yes.
just probably are going to be a while, if ever, to work in Lightburn. That being said, they are kind of some special features. So their cameras don't connect to Lightburn and such. So it makes it more difficult to use that. That being said, creative space is free. It's included, and they continue to develop it. So there are worse things to get stuck on. So
Yeah, it's XCS is growing on me. It takes a little while to get used to some of the way it works different, but all in all, like I said, if you're going to get the P2, just go ahead and come to grips with the fact that you're going to be using XCS. That's just you lose too many of those extra expensive functions by not using XCS. If you don't plan on using XCS with it, go buy a different machine that is 100% Lightburn compatible and save yourself a little bit of money.
yeah.
So it's just it has taken me a little while, like I said, to get accustomed to it, but so far it's growing on me.
Well, we've got KKD Kona from Hawaii. and just getting their first laser, X-Tool S120 watt. Excited to learn. Aloha, Kurt. Well, welcome and congratulations on your first laser. We both have an X-Tool S1. I think we both have the 40 watt version, but really effectively the same laser. And so I think you'll enjoy it, and we'll both probably have additional content out on those to come. So definitely stick around, and or if you got questions on it, hit us up, and we'll try to help you out. But thanks for joining in on the live.
Yep. Forget me not, Woodcrafts. Hello, fella. How are you? Or lady? Not sure. Let's see. What is a bin box? Don't know. What is a bin box? Somebody must have. I don't know. Got me.
And Cole mentions he's made many lanterns with Revolution ply on a I0. I'm not sure. Was that like 80 watt CO2? But yeah, I think the CO2 might have a better chance cutting through it and maybe make it a little bit better. But on the diodes, I know it can struggle through that. So, like I say, the price is really attractive on the Revolution ply, and from what I understand, it's fairly easily sourced because it's more of a composite from bamboo and other things that is a little easier to replenish. So, and that's just it. You gotta test it out on your laser, because for some material it's going to work great on my laser, but it might not work well on Clack's laser. So it's just a little bit of a trial and error, especially if it's a local source that you don't have to like order in and you can just go pick up somewhat on demand. It's always great to find those, but unfortunately it doesn't always work the same for everyone's laser. So and yeah, Chuck mentions he only uses XCS for burning and design and Corel Draw, and that's I'm kind of the same way in a lot of them. I don't do as much designing in even Lightburn or XCS. I use it more as the laser control software, and that's one thing that I've noticed in some groups when people are talking about XCS versus Lightburn, or the We Create Make It software versus Lightburn and others, and I'm they're saying, well, I don't know what I'm missing. I have all the controls I need. And I'm like, well, there's a lot more machine controls and job setup, job control that you can get with Lightburn than either XCS or the Make It software. So it's you don't have to design in that software as long as you can export it in a format that it'll read it in. So I'm with you there. Okay, I can barely hear that now. It's at an acceptable level.
I found it.
Mike says he likes Lowe's Baltic Birch. It's been cutting well for me. So my local Lowe's is actually about an hour away, so I don't shop there all that often. And the times I've been there, I can't say they've had anything close to Baltic Birch, but that's another thing with even the big box national chain stores. What is in one region might not be in another region, or even what's in my local Home Depot here. They might have different options up in the Twin Cities that's an hour away from me. So if you found it there, that's awesome. Like I say, finding a local material that you can easily source is really handy. And Dale orders wood ready to burn because they don't have the capability to cut down sheets nor the space to add it. Yeah. One of my favorite materials that I found are the Home Depot. They have like it's kind of like I don't even call it MDF. It's almost like light density core, and then it has veneers of maple, cherry, hickory. They've got about 5 different ones. and that stuff cuts really nicely. It's very consistent, and they have them in I think they're 12 by 19, so they fit most typical desktop lasers pretty well. And you can order it right from their website, and I think they offer free shipping on that off the Home Depot site. So definitely worth looking at if you don't have the ability to cut it down, and want to get something that just works. And able to order it from places like that, or like Ooch Hardwoods out of Wisconsin, Woodworker Source out of I think Arizona and Texas also offer a lot of things. Yeah, Jeff, that's the Pure Round product that I was talking about.
Yeah, not board. The 10 watt can do it. You're just gonna have to run more passes. The thicker materials on the 10 watt, you're not gonna do it as fast as you can with say a 20 watt. But if you run a few more passes, you should be able to get it knocked out, no problem. So I ran a 10 watt for a long time using quarter-inch material, and it's doable. It's just a little more time consuming. All right. So I'm happy I got my stuff back working.
Yeah, you got really quiet there at first, but it seems to have bounced back.
Well, I had to have my, Brian, I didn't even realize, but Brian didn't hear it earlier when he's making all them comments. So I owe you this one, Brian. I thought it was working. It was showing it was working everywhere on my screens. I couldn't figure out why. I'm seeing it's working. It was in the streaming software. It actually, when I came into the room, for some reason, it didn't connect up. But yeah, I get a lot of my stuff at the big box stores. I mean, that's my local shop here in town, the Russell Do It Center. That's where I get all this stuff. And come to find out, the guy I went and worked on this machine yesterday. He's the guy that's been buying up my materials when I go in there. So, because he's like, yeah, I went in a while back. They didn't have anything but this red stuff. So he got a batch of that same red stuff that they were selling for a while that I hated. But yeah, apparently me, him, and Klein are keeping them beat down with the Luan, at least around here. The Russells in Clanton, anyway.
Yeah, I have we have a couple of lumber dealers here in town outside of the big box stores, and I should probably hit them up. I know they've got Baltic birch and whatnot. I should see what they have for maybe a Luan or a underlayment type plywood that maybe is a little bit better than the Pringle chips they sell at Menards and Home Depot for that stuff, but
Yeah.
maybe not quite as expensive as the Baltic birch.
Mike, it's one thing that you're gonna with sheet goods. A lot of times, you can use, like, I use a real high tooth count blade. I don't get a lot of rip out, but you're gonna get a little bit. But they actually sell blades specifically made for cutting like thinner sheet goods and stuff like that. So next time you're in there, I can't remember what they're called or how many teeth they got, but I've got some of the bigger ones. But I usually use my little 20-volt DeWalt saw, and the blade that I'm running on it right now is not great on it, but I caught them on sale for like a 5-pack, so I'm just running what I got. But the edges that I get with my saw, I mean, you can see that it's not terrible tear out, but I do get a little bit. One thing that I will tell you when cutting really thin materials to limit the amount of tear out is, as long as your skill saw can handle it, cut 4 or 5 of them at a time. Stack them on top of each other. I use my clamps, the Craig jig clamps, to clamp the plywood together on the opposite end, and I use a sheetrock square to mark it, and then I just start ripping with my little skill saw, my little handheld 20-volt, and that's all that's what I get right there, and that's not terrible. Now the top piece may have a little more than that because obviously there's not another piece holding those little fragments to keep them from ripping out, but you'll at least save the sheets that are in the middle. You won't have near as much tear out if you stack them like that. Just a little tip in case you don't have the appropriate blade.
Yeah, I use my full size table saw, and I use like a 60 tooth blade in there, and that works pretty well. If you have the time and you're really worried about it and want to save it, if you could run a straight edge and just run a box cutter along there to break the fibers, and then run your blade along that. That will also prevent that tear out quite a bit. Or you can tape, but that's, if you put tape down first and then cut along that, that'll prevent it as well. But that, it's kind of wasteful. So
Well, this is actually a Makita blade. I don't know where I got that one. Let me look and see if I got an extra one over here. Now, I don't have any extra ones over there. Apparently, I need to re-up on blades. Maybe that's why I'm running a Makita. But ooh, I got sawdust everywhere. Painter's tape will work too. Yeah.
Yep. Rough Rider Lasers is asking, and they run their Lasermatic 30 watt with side exhaust added. Get an awful lot of fine wood dust in the enclosure. Are either of you having the same experience, or am I doing something wrong? No. That is actually typical. You'll see the laser as it's especially engraving. It creates a lot of dust and debris in there. Same thing with cutting, but a lot of that gets pushed down below. So it's not abnormal, and that's one thing that you'll see it collects on the fan, both the exhaust fan as well as the cooling fan and the module, and something that you want to kind of keep up on. So you're not doing anything wrong. It does happen, and it's just part of the maintenance that you got to watch out for.
Yeah, well, I will say this now: if you're running a really long hose because I had this with the Rolly or with the Lasermatic, if you're running say 10 feet or more of hose, it probably would help the situation a little bit if you put a fan on the other end, pulling that kind of an assist fan. Because when I've got mine ran, it's got like 15 foot of hose. And the fan that's in the machine, although it will keep the smoke cleared out, it doesn't clear it as fast as it does if I run the 4-inch assist fan on the other end. It just gives me a little bit more suction, and it does actually keep the enclosure from getting as dirty if I run that secondary fan. So depending on how far you're running the hose, you might want to give that a try if you have extra fans sitting around. Because the more air you move, the better anyway.
Yeah. And it helps to turn the fan on. I was testing both the Atom Stack enclosure as well as that Great Carve enclosure, and there were a couple times like, "Oops, forgot to turn the exhaust fan." I'm like, "It's getting really smoky in there," which is good because the enclosure was kind of containing it. But
yeah, it's weird how those fans they won't get the smoke out of there at all if you don't turn them on. Yeah, I don't know what
they work better. They work better with a little power applied to them. So.
Rusty said he's here. We can get started now.
Yes. Well, welcome, Rusty. Glad to see you here. And yeah, Mike Doyle's got a good point there too. If you're using an inline fan, you're generally going to want to remove the first one because if it's running slower than your other inline fan, your other one's not going to be doing much more than what the front one's doing. It actually acts as a brake for that airflow. Anytime you're swapping out from even like the X2 S1 and P2, they've got their built-in fans that are okay if it's a short distance and straight, but so a lot of people will upgrade that. Well, if you're leaving that fan in there powered or not, it's going to act as an obstruction to it. So it's best if you can remove it. Just be mindful that you're probably going to want to disable that in the firmware of the machine as well. So otherwise your machine will start throwing you errors.
I haven't disabled mine since I've had it or took it out of there. And like I said, because I'm running a 4-inch hose 20 feet, basically the fan on the other end is more or less just making sure that this one's not running slower than it's supposed to because it's trying to push all that air out. Now, I will say this. I make sure I turn the machine on before I turn the other fan on, or else you wind up with a fan that's spinning without being powered on, and I don't know how good that is for it. But yeah,
I noticed that with the WeCreate when I'd hook it up to my inline fan is it starts winding up a little higher, and I'm like, well, knowing what I know about three-phase motors that are in those fans, it could be probably backfeeding a little electricity. So
Yeah. But like I said, all I'm doing is just giving it a little bit of an assist. I'm not trying to overpower it. The fan that I use is not all that big.
So I think this one's popped up a few times for you there. So we should get to it. So Lisa's asking, do you have an Amazon keychain jig for the S1 jig kit?
I mean, I have the Amazon keychain file, which could be used with the S1 kit. So technically, yeah. Because all you got to do is, if you have the jig kit, then you just go get the item file as an SVG, bring it in, align it, burn it, and you should be good to go. So yeah, the Amazon keychains that I use, I don't know if it's the same ones you're talking about.
All right. I see we've had a few additions to our laser engraving community map form, so I've gone ahead and re-imported that. So everybody's pins should hopefully be showing up on that map. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, down in the description of our videos, you should see a link to a Google form and a Google map. And this is 100% optional, but if you'd like to put your pin on the map as a viewer and a member of our laser engravers community, we'd love to see where everybody's at. And so go ahead and fill out the form. You can put your name, screen name, business name, however you want, and then just something relative. You know, it can be city, state, or landmark. It doesn't need to be your specific address. And once I update that, re-import the items from that form, your pin will show up on that map. And we have over 300 and almost 350 in there now. So it's definitely growing week by week.
Cool.
Appreciate everybody putting their pins out there. As far as the U.S. goes, we're missing Nevada and Alaska. So if there's any of you out there that are in those areas and want to drop your pin on there, that'll help us out. And then we've got
pesky Nevada.
got a pretty good showing over in the UK and a few from Europe and such, and then also Australia, New Zealand area. We got a number as well. So it's definitely fun to see all the members and the people out there and where they're at. So go ahead and use those if you feel like it, and we'll get that updated.
Not bored. A 6-inch ought to be plenty for a 6-foot run. Now, keep in mind, however much air you're blowing out, you need to have enough to feed it coming in. So, no matter how big a fan you have, if it can't get air, it's going to basically be trying to pull air and blow air through the same opening, and that's not going to work. So make sure that it either has, some type of inlet that is, you don't want it to be exactly the same as the outside. You want to have a little bit of positive or a negative pressure going into the box, meaning that it builds up just a little bit of suction. That's what keeps smoke from coming out through the cracks of the machine, is the fact that you basically have a negative pressure situation inside the box, so that it is pulling air in from other places. So you don't want to have a 6-inch fan in a 12-inch hole for it to breathe through, because you're going to actually start seeing the smoke's not going to follow the fan that way. But you do need to dial it up to where you have just enough air to maintain a little bit of negative pressure inside there to keep that smoke from escaping from any cracks or wiring entry points or anything like that.
And having the fan as close to your outlet, so that's the last thing in the chain, is going to create suction along as much of it. If you have it right at your enclosure and then it's pushing air, well, any pinholes that are in that pipe before it gets out, that's going to be a leak point versus a suction point. So you want to have your fan as close to the outlet of your building or whatever as possible. So, and it's always good practice to have less sharp bends. The straighter and the cleaner the pipe, the better, the more effective it's going to be, and have less turbulence and restrictions and fewer bends. And if you can keep them as more of 45s versus 90s, the air will keep moving a lot easier as well. So,
yeah. Somebody feeding the squirrels. I don't know if they're talking about my ADHD or what.
Well, Don's asking, he's got a Sculpt Fun S9 and S10. Do I have to use their roller for tumblers, or can I use different ones? Generally speaking, you can use most um, any roller or chuck rotary as long as you can get the right pin connectors. So some of them will have different style connectors, and some of them will have the wires in different orders. So you'll see with a lot of them, they'll come with adapters that go from a certain style to it. But no, you don't necessarily need to use their brand with your their brand roller with your laser. So both Clack and I really like the Atom Stack one, and that does come with a couple adapters that work out well. And or you can generally, if you're a little savvy, you could rig up an adapter with the right connectors as well.
If it's the same as my S9 that I had, it should have the standard, like the plugs that Atom Stack uses on the steppers.
Yeah.
And as long as it has the same plugs on the steppers as Atom Stack and some of the other machines, I know the Sculpt Fun that I still have, it does. It'll work with the Atom Stack chucks, Atom Stack rollers. It works with. It'll even work with the X Tool, the RA2 if you've got the right cable. Like Steve said, it's more about the cable and knowing what the steps per rotation is on the unit itself. That's the two things you have to have is the cable to connect it, which that cable is basically you unplug the wire from the stepper, plug it into that guy, and bam, you're there. But then you have to set the rotation and everything. And each one of these chucks, some of them have a different, rotations than others. Like I know the Atom Stack and the eights are the same, but like the Sculpt Fun, some of the other machines that manufacture them, the steps are a little different. Let's see what else we got here. Not entirely, Craig. You're going to need to make sure if you're using any kind of translucent material, you're going to need to make sure it's blocking the correct frequency. If you don't, you still could get some eye damage from it. Because a fiber does not operate on the same frequency as a diode. Like these glasses work on either, but you can see how much darker they are. And like this is your typical orange, and this one stops everything. So that's what you need to look for. You need to look for the OD rating and make sure that it works on that particular wavelength. The orange stuff typically does not for a fiber. Steve, input?
Yeah, nope. You want to. So the diode stuff, you're looking at the 455-ish nanometer wavelength, and the fiber is 1064. So it's a lot higher. It's going to interact differently. So yeah, you want to you're going to want to check that. And honestly, if you don't need to see it from all angles, you're going to be best at having just a solid non-transparent, other than maybe the front or whatnot. But and then with that, then definitely still have a good set of glasses on them.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you know 100% that it's going to be able to block that.
Yeah, I just go with the glasses on the fiber. 'Cause I don't have any fiber, resistant material around here. It would be a bad idea to get some and make me an enclosure. That might be something I'll work out in the future. Because I had to lock the cats out of the shop the other day when I was running the fiber. And when I left, apparently Fluffy ran into the shop and I didn't realize it. And so I shut the door and I forgot to open the cat door. So Fluffy was in here overnight and she was not happy. She had food and water. She's got air conditioning, but she still was not happy about not being able to go outside. And she showed her her discourse by using the bathroom in the floor.
Well, when you lock them in there.
Oh, I couldn't blame her on that one. And there wasn't even any sawdust. I had cleaned up, so poor cat went crazy.
Yeah. Kent is asking, he's got the X-Tool Air Assist and have to sand or clean off a lot of soot on cuts. Is there a better Air Assist to cut down on this? I don't mind paying the money to prevent more cleanup. If you've got the stock X-Tool air pump on that. That might be something to look at upgrading to. I've had a few of them, and they even seem to vary from pump to pump. Um, and I don't think they move as much air as others. The one I really like is the Atom Stack air pump.
The new
Actually,
one.
I have one right back here. Here we go.
Is that the one with the fan in the bottom?
Yeah, it's got the fan in the bottom. It's got variable speed. And this is actually a 24 volt. I think this one pushes 60 liters per minute, whereas the X-Tool one's closer to 30. So almost twice the volume of air. And it's got the variable speed to it. So I would look at that first. Or if you have an air compressor and can put a moisture trap and a valve on it or something, you can go that route as well. But it may just be the volume of air moving through that is just not quite enough. And getting something with a variable speed and a little more oomph behind it should help you out a bit.
Well, and I will say this too. There's a couple other things that could be causing this that you might want to look at, Kent. One, if you do have the old X-Tool air assist, you've been running it for a while, you might want to check the inlet, make sure it's not stopped up, first of all, because if it's stopped up, it's not going to be moving any air. And secondly, if your lens starts to deteriorate a little bit and you start getting some issues with your lens, I have noticed that a lot of times it'll generate a lot more burn around the cut because I'm guessing because the beam's fragmenting a little bit and it's causing some, some inconsistencies in the beam. So check those two things really good too before you go all in on the air assist, because I've ran the X-Tool air assist kit on my D1 Pro for a long time and I haven't had those issues. So I would check, make sure the inlet on the pump is not obstructed, or make sure the pump's not going bad. And also, I'd go ahead and check that lens real good, just to be sure, because that will cause a little bit of a problem as well.
I believe those pumps do have a small filter on them as well that you can clean out or replace. So definitely something to check. But my personal opinion is I think it's just kind of it's decent, but could be better with a little more air volume to it. So.
Yeah, but I do like that pump that you're talking about. I was running it on my X40 up until this past weekend. I finally got my shop air assist up and going. David Allen, hello. Man, that guy's got a good name. Keith says that he is Otour LM2 Pro S2 on the rotary, does not need for me to mirror the file. Well, you really don't have to mirror the file if you just flip the rotary around. That's a little trick. So you don't, because if you flip it around, it's going to turn the other way. So, but the LM2 is probably because the origin is different on those two machines, if I was guessing, and by default it's going a different direction. But you can seriously, if you're just using a rotary, you can literally just rotate it 180 degrees and bam, your mirrored effect is no more, generally. Because I know the X-Tool, everybody kept saying, why am I having to run mine mirrored? And they put a picture of it and the X-Tool writing was upside down. And I'm like, flip it over. Flip it over, turn off mirroring. But it has a lot to do with the origin, possibly, on the machines, why it's doing it. Or you may have just laid it down and not paid attention to the fact that it may or may not have been upside down. But been there, done that. It's really bad when you don't realize it until after you finish the tumbler and you're like, wait a minute. That doesn't look right.
Well, I have a couple tumblers where I forgot to rotate it.
Yeah, where it's upside down. It's really
sideways instead of, because I'm used to working in my normal, I'm setting up the file, getting all the text right, but I forgot to rotate it to the orientation of the mug. And I was like, So I have one tumbler where instead of being the start of, I was doing these for my staff at work. And so it says IT services this way instead of being on the bottom. So.
Hey, It is what it is. It happens. If you're not tearing up some stuff every now and then, you're really not learning. I mean, I hate it.
Yeah. Yep. So
Yes,
slowing down a little bit. If
not said he's a David. Also, I'm telling you, he's some folks got some good names.
well, you know, everybody's got to be named something.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's an hour and 35 minutes. So, guys, if you hadn't hit the thumbs up, like button, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff, please do. Please do. And go add yourself to the map. The link should be in all the descriptions. I think I fixed it this time to where it should have been in all of them. So,
Yeah, I noticed on yours you had that included as well.
and I'm experimenting with Instagram this time around, but I don't think it's going to work out right because Instagram is not set up for this format. So I'm probably going to have to take that
Yeah.
off because I got a warning when I went live, so I may wind up having to remove that altogether.
So, since we have a little bit of a lull here, so the video I dropped today was about the Great Carve acrylic enclosure, which is kind of cool. But they also have laserable materials, and so they sent a pack of it, and one of them was this. They call it scratch acrylic, and so it's got. Well, here's the cutouts of it, but on one side it's got this thin, basically like a black veneer, and then it's got this solid color on the other side, and this is maybe about a 1.5 millimeters thick. So I was playing around with that, and it came out really well. This is a dragon that was engraved using that, and so the shading comes through really well. I'm getting a little bit of glare there, but it's really kind of a cool stuff, similar to doing like the painted canvases that I know I've played with and others. And so they make a few different colors of this. I've got a few extra sheets I'm going to play around with and whatnot. But if people are looking for something different to play with, maybe check that stuff out. And if you want to see how this ran, it's in kind of the second half of my video I dropped today on that great carving closure. So kind of cool stuff. They also have like the laserable leather, and they sent a few sheets of that to play around with it. So some fun stuff to do something a little bit different with. And yeah, check it out.
Dale said he should be a pro by now. I don't think it happens that way because I know I have really messed some stuff up. Mark said, "What's that called again?"
It's scratch acrylic from Great Carve. Let me see if I can pull up there.
You're gonna need to link that.
Yeah,
that does look pretty cool. I haven't messed with a whole lot of that stuff, but it looks pretty cool.
Let's see here. All right, I will drop this. Drop this in my chat first. There we go, and hopefully we won't break it by dropping it over here.
Oh no, it's gonna mess your chat up.
We'll see. But yeah, I was doing this on a 20 watt, the algo laser, and it did cut through this acrylic. I didn't run a speed test to see how fast I could run it on it, but I ended up doing it at 150 millimeters a minute at 95% power, and I know I could have gone faster. So yeah, I mean, check it out. It's some fun stuff to play with, and maybe something that you can use in your things.
Cool. ET. I've done one a long time ago, but I need to redo it because the production quality wasn't that great. But I did my little 60-second rundown the other day. But I guess I could do a more in-depth, like, air assist setup. And like I said, the way that I run mine, guys, there's probably better ways. The way that I do mine is cheap. It's on a budget. You're looking at $12 for the relay to connect to the laser for the electronic controls. You're looking at probably another $12 for the water separator valve regulator combo, and then like another $8 for the secondary water separator that I put behind the solenoid. So, for $30, and then you get the piping kit with all the connectors for probably another 20. So like $50, you can hook it up to your air compressor, and have it running per machine because you got to have all that stuff for each machine. But yeah, I'll try to put that on my to be done list, especially now that I got enclosures Zilla completely connected the way it's supposed to be again. Because I never actually had automatic air in here because I had the P20 and then I had the Acer V35. Neither one of them had a signal output for the air assist. But then when I got the X40, it did. So I had to retrofit this enclosure. Now, my other enclosure over here, this one where I have the longer B1 house, that enclosure has had automatic air in it for over a year now. So yeah, I could run through those setups and show you guys. I got plenty of extra parts in my toolbox too, because I've learned that buying the cheapest solenoids and pneumatics valves and stuff is cool, but you need to keep a spare one on hand if you're really highly dependent upon them because they do go down occasionally. Uh,
North Alabama barbecue, you are in luck. We are unseasonably warm right now, and it'll be in the low 50s this week. So you depending on what you're going for, you picked the right time or the wrong time to come visit Minnesota in February.
he's from North Alabama, so he's not looking forward to the negative 30. I'm sure.
Yeah, there's no snow up here right now. There's probably you're more likely to drive through snow south of us than up here. We really haven't had a lot of snow up here. So and any that we did have is gone. So
Dennis is asking, how does the new Atom Stack, with the new enclosure rate with the Rolly? Dennis, as far as the machines that I have brought through here that have had enclosures built on them like that, I would have to put it as a second behind the Rolly, and it's not as well engineered as far as the honeycomb is not trapped; it moves around. So I like that with the Lasermatic. The Lasermatic, I think the acrylic is a little thinner on the Lasermatic's cover, but not by much. And the way that they've kind of heat bent it and added reinforcements and stuff like that, it's just as sturdy. Let me check and see. No, I guess it's the same. It's about the same thickness. But the Lasermatic, as far as overall engineering in the machine, it's a step above what the Atom Stack is. But it is also a little more expensive. But as far as the camera is right there with it. I mean, it's a good comparison between the Lasermatic camera and the Atom Stack. I mean, there's not any noticeable difference in the performance of those two. The 20-watt module, this is a 30-watt Lasermatic, so naturally it's going to outperform when it comes to cutting. Engraving wise, I think the quality of the engraving is very, very similar. This one does have a little bit faster white space speed than the Atom Stack as far as if you're doing an engrave. This machine performs more like the Algo laser as opposed to the other one is more of the speed of, let's say, a D1 Pro. Because the Algo and the LM3 and the Lasermatic are the three fastest moving machines as far as engraving I've ever seen. Up until the Algo laser came out, the LM3, like if it's doing an engrave here and then it has to go over here to engrave another piece, it literally will at the blink of an eye. And so the LM3 was the first machine that I ever had that did that. Then the Algo, and the Lasermatic is the same way. I suspect the same parts are in the Lasermatic as are in the Algo laser because the way it performs cutting. So engraving, you're going to get a little bit more performance as far as speed out of the MK2. Also, the MK2 does have a slightly larger work area, and it has that cool thing with the pins for the chuck in the bottom of the enclosure. That's something that Atom Stack did not add. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. If I was Atom Stack, next month y'all would see where I was releasing the base plate for the Atom Stack A24, and it would have pins that would hold the honeycomb as well as a spot that the the chuck would sit in, just like this guy. And so basically, you would be able to buy the machine, then buy the enclosure, then buy the bottom part. And by the time you put it all together, of course, the price is probably going to be about the same as the Lasermatic. But you could. The only reason I see where that would be an advantage is if you wanted to just buy the laser, make a little bit of money with it, reinvest, make a little money, reinvest, and eventually get to this point instead of having to come out of pocket with all the cost at one time. But the Lasermatic is probably one of the better engineered machines that I've ever seen. But like I said, the Atom Stack done a really good job for a budget version of that. And I wouldn't be shocked a bit. I haven't looked to see if there's screw holes in the bottom of it. But when I got the machine and I saw those screw holes in the top, I was like, okay, there's an enclosure coming. But I haven't flipped it over to see. There may be screw holes in the bottom of it where they're planning on doing a bottom plate as well. So that's one major thing that the MK2 has on any of these machines is the fact that it's so easy to do repeatable projects in it because of the jig plate. Because I have the actual jig panel for mine. So it's well, let me move some stuff. I got dust everywhere. So I actually have the jig panel for my MK2, and this thing works really nice. It is very dusty in here. So you can like jig stuff out with this, and you don't have to have anything else. You just have this. So that's a really nice thing that no other laser right now offers that I'm aware of. And if you look at the rotary for the Lasermatic, it has these holes that line up with well, here they are. Here's one here and one here. These holes line up in the bottom of the machine and like lock it in place so that it's always in the same location. And that's something that, like I said, nobody else has done that. Now, I've retrofitted a few machines and made them do that. And I kind of think Rolly might owe me a little royalties on some of this jig stuff, but we're not going to talk about that. But yeah, it's a good machine. But the Atom Stack, like I said, a little smaller. If you're going to be moving it around a lot, it's a little lighter, and you know, it's just there's a handful of differences. But the Atom Stack is a decent machine. I wouldn't be afraid to, you know, let one of my family members or somebody buy one because I've had good luck with Atom Stack machines. They're budget friendly but effective, and they're getting to where they're innovating them to where they offer basically anything that you could want, whether you want it 850 by 850 or you want it, what's the other one, 350 by 350.
Yeah, I mean, they do get a little crazy on their various models and options and whatnot, but I guess, you know, you got some nice selection and variety. So,
Yes, I do not have a pump on my air assist setup at all, other than my air compressor. It runs off the air compressor. So, and I've got a California air compressor that's actually outside, and it's piped into the building through plumbing. And I've just got a tap that pulls off and goes to my enclosure that feeds the air assist. So, and then I regulate it at the enclosure to get it down to, you know, wherever I want it for the machine. Because each machine, each setup, each hole in the end of the air assist, each one of them takes a different amount of air to perform the way I want it to. I did a little 60-second short. Go on my channel, look at that little 60-second short that I did the other day. And it basically shows you all the components and how I tune it while it's in the cut to get the best results.
Martin is asking about the Xtool screen printer. Do you know if there's a source for the blank screens? Unfortunately, not yet. I know they are planning on offering them, but I'm hoping after they're off of Lunar New Year here that they're getting caught up. I think they've said late February or March is when they should have them available. They are slightly different because they are a steel-based screen. That's what allows the laser to be able to engrave away the emulsion and leave just the screen itself. So they're kind of, I'm sure someone else could make them as well, but they're not your typical screen. So hopefully they'll have those available soon, because I know I'm waiting for them. I only have a few on hand that I'm saving for a couple things, and I want to be able to do more playing. So
Yeah, they're gonna. I mean, they're gonna add those. I mean, they sell everything from black walnut plywood to acrylic now in their store. So that's gonna be one more of those. One more way that X Tool is making money off of the lasers is because they're selling you the resources to build stuff too.
Yep.
Rusty said he's copied my jigs, then upgraded the to the tooth jig. Well, I'm not sure what that means. Then built the enclosure. He said just don't do a how to organize your shop video anytime soon. I guess I'm creating work for him. So, but my shop's
That's
it's I considered organized. It's just a little cluttered because I got too much junk.
yeah, that's
Uh,
that's that's my problem right now especially in the winter, it's hard for me to really move things out and clean them without just dumping all my warm air out and just freezing myself. So it's gotten a little claustrophobic in here over the past couple months.
Yeah, Glenn, the way you add yourself to the map is just fill out the form. It won't show on the map until Steve does his update, and he usually does a couple of those during the live, and I know he will do it at the end of the live. So it may take a few minutes before you can actually see your pin on the map. But if you did the form and completed that, then it'll be there as soon as he updates. Let's see. Somebody else had something. Oh. Well, Cole, I got my order confirmation from Adam Stack. I do have the 70-watt Pro coming, and it's going to be going in the small enclosure over here, taking the place of the longer 30-watt B1. Uh, and they have two different versions. They offered me the 850 by 850 version of it, which that's insane. I don't have I don't have room for that. If I had room for it, it'd be fun to play with, but I just do not have room for 850 by 850 laser. I mean, that's excessive. So I opted for the smaller version, which is the Pro, which is very comparable to say the old Acer. I think is it 450 by 450? Didn't you look it up? It's
For
smaller.
the 70-watt,
Yeah,
it's 400 by 500, I think.
400 by 500. Yeah, I
Yeah,
knew it
500
was.
deep and 400 wide.
Yeah, it's a little bit bigger, I guess, than some, but a little smaller than others. But I went with that one because I've already got an enclosure that I can put it in, and I'm not going to build an 850 by 850 enclosure anytime soon. Anything that big, I'll put over on the Shapeco when it gets here and cut it with a bit. I don't. I've got a Acer V35 up there that if I need to do a larger engrave, I can set it up on the table and run it if I need to. But I don't take jobs like that, so I don't see that ever being something that I'd need right now. Da, 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 da,
Questions about can you recover those screens with emulsion to reuse? Yes, you can. You can clean them off and then reapply the emulsion and cure that. I haven't done it yet, but that is definitely something you can do. So that'll be another option. But I've the thing is I've got logos and things I'm going to reuse on the ones I've been using, so I'm kind of saving those, and I have I just want to get a stock of a few that I can play around with them.
I don't know what would be causing that, to be honest with you. So apparently, Irfan is saying that his laser module goes bad after using a rotary. He's had two now on the laser module that won't work. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what kind of machine it is, though.
Not. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I mean, one thing you want to make sure the machine is powered off when you swap cables, but that shouldn't affect the module per se, as maybe the board or the stepper. As far as the module, I mean, if you're depending on what you're engraving, you could be clogging up or getting debris on the cover lens or on the focus lens, and that could cause some issues with it if you're not able to run air during it. And there's some of the powders and stuff on the tumblers can then kind of stick to the air assist cone or the lens cover. That might be something to check. But to have it just outright fail and not work, that's that's odd. That'd be concerning. I don't have a really good idea on that without, being able to look at it closer, I guess.
Yeah. Keith saying that while doing stainless steel tumblers, would y'all say it's acceptable to leave very, very faint lines in the tumbler with a diode laser because he can't achieve awesome finishes on powder coat mugs? Uh, yes, sometimes, but if you'll play with the settings, play with the focus, most of the time you can get it down to a smooth finish. Typically, if you're seeing the lines in the metal itself, you're too hot. If you're seeing like leaves of the coloring, then you're not hot enough. So you have to play with those settings. It's a balance. And I will tell you too, with some of the machines, you may find it easier to find that balance if you'll pull your machine up about 2 millimeters out of focus. And kind of widen that beam a little bit, you'll have less chance of, you'll get a little more overlap. You'll have less chance of it happening. Now, you don't have to do that to get it done, but it can eliminate a lot of trial and error when it comes to power settings, for sure.
Yeah, the other thing to do is just play with your LPI. Maybe bump that up just a little bit, but you got to be careful that when doing that, you can also cause a hotter burn, and that could start etching the stainless underneath. So defocusing it is a good idea, as you're not going to lose a whole lot of detail in it, and it's going to have a little more overage without heating up that stainless too much. But you can also play with your LPI.
Yeah, Brad's saying the 500 by 400 for the other one, but yeah, you knew that. I couldn't remember. Uh, Yuri's asking, do we run our laser CNC machines on their own separate breakers? No, Yuri, but I do run a battery backup on all my machines for two purposes. One, to catch any kind of lightning or power surges that comes in the building. And two, in the event that I'm in the middle of a burn and the power flickers, I don't want my machines going down. So I've got two battery backups. I've got one sits up here on my desk, and I've got another one down below. And I will show you on here, but I think this thing's about done. Oh, yeah, it's done.
Yeah.
It's done. Oh, wait a minute. No, wait. Why is it? Oh my goodness, it is not wanting to work right. But
Well,
that's terrible.
so yeah, for my lasers, no, I don't. They don't draw that much power to be worrying about being on a separate breaker per se. However, the CNC machine, because I also have dust collection with it, I have the dust collection on a separate circuit from the CNC router. And as a matter of fact, as you kind of grow and get into maybe a higher power VFD and spindle, a lot of people will run that separate from their CNC controller, separate from their dust collection. So in some cases with those out, it's nice to have three different circuits to be able to run it off of. Now, that's not necessarily a dedicated circuit to that machine, but seeing as I'm not going to be running, say, my table saw at the same time as I'm running my CNC machine most often, they might be on the same circuit. I'm just not running them at the same time. But I have had it where I was trying to run just a shop vac dust collector on the same power strip as the CNC machine and everything, and it drew too much, which crashed the job and ruined the material. So for those I definitely do, but most of the diode lasers and such, no, they don't draw enough power to worry about it being too dedicated and separate. But that being said, I try to not also spin up a high amp draw machine on the same circuit as the laser's running, because that can run the risk of dropping your voltage and causing some issues with these as well. So like Clack said, it's great to have a UPS there that's going to filter the voltage, give you a constant supply, even if you have some of those peaks on some of those machines that are a little more sensitive.
Yeah, I I have it in the plans because I didn't have one over there, but I'm gonna add myself another. Probably go ahead and run a 30 while I'm running it. Run me another 30 amp plug over there behind my big table because right now I'm running the dust collection off of my saws, the dust collection off the CNC, the saws themselves, and the CNC all off that one circuit. Now it's a 15 amp circuit, so I can run the CNC in the dust collection, or I can run the saws in the dust collection. But I did have an incident the other day where I had all of them going, and I fired up the table saw, and it tripped it. So
Yep.
I do have to fix that. I'm gonna put a dedicated circuit just for the CNC stuff, and add a battery bank also over there. Just like I said, just for a filter, and in case the lights flicker, the CNC, even the spindle, will be able to at least stay spinning long enough for the power to come back on. Now, if it goes out for 30 minutes, most of these little battery backups aren't going to power that spindle very long, but it will cover me on a lot of those little flickers that you get during thunderstorms and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, when I built this, this was supposed to be a garage with a small workshop area at the front half. And so I have like 3 dedicated circuits up there, but these 2 walls and the back one share because there's supposed to be cars parked here. And why would you need that many dedicated circuits? And now that it's all drywalled and insulated in, I'm going, wish I had
Hey, here's
rethought that a little
here's
bit.
an idea. Just go grab yourself some conduit and just go and run you
Well,
some conduit and drop some plugs on the wall.
well, I mean, along with the power connection for a mini split, yeah, that's stuff I'll be looking at this summer. You know,
Yeah. Which luckily here at the shack, it's engineered in a manner to where I can run a piece of 10 or 12 gauge wire over there. All I got to do is take one of my boards, take it loose from the wall, and come down the wall. I
yeah,
mean, the shack was engineered for that, so we're good. Adding a circuit here is just going to hurt me when I have to go buy the Romex to run.
yeah.
That's what hurts because they don't that 10 to 12 gauge Romex is not cheap these days.
Nope. I didn't even want to pay for it 15 years ago when I built this. So
Let's see. Dale, I guess I could. It's really not that labor intensive, but yeah, I could knock one out if it would make people feel a little more comfortable about taking it apart. So we'll see. Yeah, I'll add that to the list. Okay, so it looks like I'm gonna be. I've got content for the next week. I'm gonna be doing air assist, play-by-play walkthrough, all the parts needed. Check links in the description, of course, and then we'll do. I'll try to knock out a Lasermatic thorough cleaning of the Lasermatic video. So we'll see.
well,
And I
I
gotta
will
make and I got
hopefully
and I
be
gotta make 12 stove
working
covers.
on working on this, which is the X40 Atom stack. So,
You ain't even got it a house yet.
well,
You were
no,
supposed
but
to. You were supposed to build an enclosure like a week
I
ago.
yeah, I know I was, but you know, stuff happened.
Yeah,
Plus, now I have the reference material to make sure I build it big enough.
that's right. Steve, he said you can't charge your Tesla on a shared circuit.
That is not a problem. I don't. I don't. You know, I had to mess with putting in some EV chargers at work, and what a pain. So,
Well, Mark, you're going to need to get yourself one of these. That, sir, is a hole saw right there. Now, I will give you advice when using this. Hold on tight because if it ever binds, it will break your wrists. I use my 20-volt drill or my 20-volt impacts. The impacts I find are actually safer because they don't twist as bad. They'll just kind of hammer it on through. But the drill, you'll break your wrist with this. But this is a 4-inch hole saw, and yeah, I had to hunt for one of them to be able to put
s-
pipe through the walls.
So I put it on my I've got the what is it, the handle adapter for when you're putting it in hammer mode. So I put that on there, so I've got a grip one direction or the other when drilling through with that thing. Yeah, because that'll hurt.
Yeah, it'll snap your arm if you don't watch it. You gotta hang on to that guy, no doubt. Or either just turn your clutch down to where the clutch will slip. Do not turn the clutch all the way up because it'll get you. But it's the cleanest and easiest way of doing it because the first couple I put in, I drilled a hole and used a jigsaw, and that's when I learned I can't cut circles with a jigsaw. So
Yeah.
I had to go find a hole saw. But now I can take that guy, go outside, cut the hole in the tin, come inside, cut the hole in the board, reach in there with an X-Acto and cut me a little cross in the insulation, and boom, out goes a piece of PVC. So we're good. But yeah.
Very nice. Well, we've been going for over 2 hours. So last call for questions or comments.
Let me answer this one right here. All right, my recommendation, and like I said, try it if you want. If you're running the USB cable that far, what I would do on the other end is get yourself one of these. This is my extra. I've got 2 of them in service right now. This is my spare in case one goes down. But what it is, this is a powered USB 3 hub. So what this does basically is if you've got that long USB run, you're going to have a little bit of signal loss between the computer and the end machine or whatever it is. And by using this, what you do is basically this thing kind of tops off the tank for it before it gets to the machine and makes sure that you have plenty of power going to each individual machine. This one's cool because if it's something that you don't use, it's got a little button. You can mash that button and it'll disable it. And that way the other machines that you are using can have all the power. You'll notice there's one mounted to that pole right there behind me. And I've got another one over here on the other end of my workbench. And then I've got another one, which is not this brand, on EnclosureZilla. That everything in EnclosureZilla's plugs into these hubs. So basically everywhere I got an enclosure, I got one of these guys. That way I'm not trying to pull all that power from the motherboard on my PC, because those PC motherboards, or even if you have a PCI card that has USB slots, there's only so much electricity to go around. And you start plugging too much stuff in there without providing some power, you're going to run into issues, especially with USB 2 stuff, trying to USB 2 ports trying to run USB 3 stuff. So these are cheap. These are from Amazon, and for what you pay for them, it's well worth it because you don't have those drop connections as often running these. That's why I had some older ones that weren't powered hubs, and I replaced all my old hubs with powered ones. So,
Yep.
So now I got all these non-powered hubs just laying around everywhere.
Yep. Yeah, and they're good for tapping off a charge port as well. I've got some of those that have four of the USB ports on the hub and then one just dedicated charge port. So
Yeah.
they're definitely good to have. And 30 feet's a long way to transmit USB. You're going to want to make sure it's a really quality cable, and that sometimes things like that, if they've got to have constant communication, you might, you're kind of pushing it on that. But adding that powered hub in line definitely helps out. So, but Bill, I know Bill asked this a couple times, so he's asking, can I make Lightburn send the entire job all at once? It seems to dribble the code in a little bit of time. Unfortunately, no, it does stream it in. So the only way around that is if you have a laser that has a offline controller on it, you can export the G code from Lightburn, put it on that card, and then drop it into the offline controller and run it there. But unfortunately, no, the laser, the software communicating direct with the laser, it's going to stream it in however the laser wants to take it with some of them. And that's where you'll notice sometimes, I think with Xtool and others, they'll they'll buffer some of it, so it sometimes says the job's done in Lightburn when it's still going, and that's indicative of it's streamed all the file to the laser, but the laser's still processing it. So really the only way to do that is if you have an offline controller option such as Atom Stack or IKEA and a few others, or the Algo Laser Delta, things like that, that'll let you load it from either a flash, or a micro SD or a USB flash drive.
I just realized that the MK2 has a micro SD card, but I think that's to use the a lot of the machines you can use the wireless access, and you can send the codes that are saved to the SD card also. So you might want to check with that. I know Atom Stack actually has an app that you can do that with. Their Sculpt Fun has it, and Atom Stack, that you can put the files on an SD card and send it through an app. But you're just running straight G codes. You're not going to be controlling the machine necessarily.
And that's how some of them, when they advertise, they have the power restore. It needs to be run that way. It won't work from Lightburn because it interrupts the stream. Whereas with the when it's running off the card, it can keep track of that and resume.
Yeah. Wes, I think I saw this one earlier. We just didn't get to it.
Yep.
Yes, I have found that usually they are. Yes, because all you're doing is establishing a fixed location below the module, and so the kickstand, as long as you're using it right, then yeah, it should work.
Yeah, they generally are, and with the the blue diode lasers and CO2s, depending on the size lens, they have a certain distance where they're going to be roughly in focus. Whereas the IR, you've got about a millimeter where it's in focus, if that. So depending on the module and whatnot, they are close, and you can get away with them being off a little bit on certain wavelengths. But it's still, if you're questioning it, you want to run what's called a ramp test, and that's you'd want to look this up maybe on a video. But you'd set your material at an angle, and you run your laser across it like on a line, and then you look at where is the line the finest, and that's going to be your focus spot, and then you'd want to measure that distance, and then you can make adjustments from there. But generally, yeah, I've only had a couple where the module itself was bad, and or I've seen a couple people where like their focus lens got knocked out of place, and that's obviously gonna affect it. But they generally are close enough for the blue diode lasers.
Yeah. I actually like the little kickstand. I wish I've even thought about 3D printing my own little kickstand and just like gluing it to the side of the modules, because most of them now have got to where they got the little, you put the insert underneath the cover. Well, the first thing I take off of these lasers is the cover if it's going in an enclosure. So then I have to wind up making my own little focusing tools, kind of like the two that you see hanging on the right side of my enclosure over there. I got a cut and an engrave tool for the X40. So.
Well, now the tool that comes with the X40, the Atom Stack ones are actually pretty good, because if you have the cover on, you lay it down flat, and it's got the 2 steps. If you
you turn it sideways.
If you turn it sideways, and it's the right size. So at least they have that option, and I agree with you. It's I'd much rather just have something that's on the module that works with it on or off. But yeah, Jack, I on my CO2, here's this little acrylic stick that everybody's like, what's this for? I'm like, well, that's the distance between your it's not even labeled as anything. You don't know what it's there unless you do a little reading. You're like, oh, that's my focal distance. But so
yeah, but it's like I said, it's all a different perspective. But yeah, I've thought about making my own little, especially now that I have the CNC, because technically I can CNC one out of aluminum. Huh.
yep.
Make my own little kickstand.
Yeah.
Or 3D print it.
I mean, you got the P2. You could just cut it out of acrylic.
Well, I do have a couple of them that I've made out of acrylic, but the wooden ones seem to work fine. The one I got now just slides on the module, and you just let it down until it touches, pull it off, and hang it back on the hook. So, but yeah, it works. It works really well. But Anyway, it is 2 hours and 14 minutes, which is a little long, but hey, for those of you that hung out with us and stuck it out for 2 hours and 15 minutes, we appreciate it. But I know I've got to go to work tomorrow and back to the real world, and Steve does too. So we're not gonna be able to hang out with you all night, guys. But there will be next week, of course.
Yes, unfortunately, there's those pesky day jobs, but we'll definitely be back next week, and hopefully both of us, like I said, it's warmed up. I'll be able to get back out here. I'll have a little more content coming out. January is a little light for me. Just life just kept getting in my way all month. So hopefully I'll be getting caught up and get back to a few of the machines and the projects and some tutorials, and appreciate everybody watching, commenting, liking, sharing, all that stuff. Definitely helps keep things motivated, get that feedback from everybody. So we will see you again next week, if not online on the various socials.
Yeah, well, I'll have. I got a couple of things I can make videos on this week. Air assist set up, cleaning the MK2. I also got some jobs I got to get out with some stove covers. So hopefully I'll spend a day or two working on those, and then I can get back to doing some content for you guys. Here soon, I will be getting the Atom Stack 70 watt. I don't know how long it'll be, but they did send me an order confirmation, so I'm going to take that as it's probably coming. I've dealt with Atom Stack on numerous other stuff, and if once you get that, it's usually coming, whether it may be a month or 2 weeks. As well as hopefully they said it ships within 15 days. We'll be replacing the CNC with the Shapeco 5 Pro. I've already got me a helper lined up. Client's going to come over and help me do the heavy lifting because the gantry, I've been told, weighs close to 100 pounds. And trying to hold that steel and start bolts doesn't sound like much fun without an overhead crane. So client's going to come help me get that done. If he doesn't show, then Brandy may be doing a cameo in another video, because I'm definitely going to have some help to make sure I don't tear anything up putting that together. But all in all, like I said, it's just going to be the same old stuff, and hopefully we can come up with some cool content this week. But till next Sunday, guys, y'all stay tuned and go check out the channels. I'm sure there's a video somewhere you haven't seen, so go check those out.
Yeah, if you dig back far enough, you'll get some interesting model airplane content from me. So go enjoy me about 15 years younger.
Yeah, and you'll see why it's important to buy a good camera. So anyway,
hey,
y'all have
all
a good
they had
night.
back then were digital potatoes, so that's my excuse.
Steve's first stream was on his Nokia candy bar phone. Y'all have a good one. See ya.
All right.